West Ham United have just told their own shareholders something extraordinary. In their own official club accounts published this year, they used a phrase, severe but plausible scenario, to describe what happens if they get relegated. Severe but plausible. That is not a spin. That is not a journalist being dramatic. That is West Ham's own board, in their own words, describing their own future. 2 points above the relegation zone, 4 games left, a £104 million loss on the books, a vice chairman who's just walked out with immediate effect, and a financial time bomb underneath this club that most people have absolutely no idea about. This is the full story. To understand what's happening at West Ham right now, you need to go back 3 years. 2023. West Ham win the Europa Conference League. Declan Rice lifts the trophy in Prague, their first major European honour since 1965. 58 years of waiting. David Moyes delivers the moment that the whole club had been building towards. 6 weeks later, they sold Declan Rice to Arsenal for £105 million. Now, before you say that is smart business, and it is smart business, here is what West Ham did with the money. They spent £130 million on new players the following summer. Max Kilman, Somerville, Nicholas Fulkrug. Mohamed Kudus had already arrived the previous summer for £38 million. They sacked David Moyes, the manager who had just won them a European trophy, and they replaced him with Julian Lopetegui. He lasted 7 months. Then Graham Potter, sacked after 9 games. And now Nuno Espirito Santo, currently fighting to keep them up. 4 managers, 2 years, £130 million spent, and no repeat of European football. And then, last week, Karren Brady resigned. Brady had been deputy chair of West Ham for 16 years, and one of the most powerful women in football. She was the architect of the move to the London Stadium, the face of the boardroom alongside David Sullivan. She left on April 21st with immediate effect. Not at the end of the season, not after the final game, immediately. 6 weeks before the end of the season, with the club in a relegation fight. Finance expert Stefan Borsen, one of the most respected voices in football finance, told the Football Insider there was almost certainly a big fallout. He said nobody leaves with immediate effect this close to the end of the season in a planned way. And it's not just Brady. West Ham's executive director, Nathan Thompson, also left with immediate effect on the same day. The chief finance officer, Andy Mullett, is leaving at the end of the season. The boardroom is emptying out, while the team fights for survival. Now, let's talk about the money, because this is where it gets genuinely staggering. West Ham's revenue last season was £228 million. The season before was £270 million. That's a drop of £42 million in a single year. The primary reason, no European football, no Thursday night games, no UEFA prize money, and no commercial uplift that comes with continental competition. But here is the killer detail. Their costs did not drop by £42 million. They barely dropped at all, because wages are all fixed. Transfer amortization is fixed. The bills keep coming whether you are playing in Europe or if you're scrapping in a relegation fight. The result? A pre-tax loss of £104.2 million. The biggest annual loss in West Ham's entire history. By a distance. And here's the part that should terrify every West Ham fan. That £57 million profit they made the year before, the year that looked so healthy on the books, that was entirely down to one thing. Selling Declan Rice to Arsenal for £105 million. West Ham's profit without that Rice sale was a significant loss. They were never as financially healthy as those accounts suggested. The Rice sale papered over structural cracks that were already there. Remove Rice, remove the Conference League run that inflated the revenue, and remove European football entirely, and what you're left with is a club that has been spending well beyond its means for many years. The cracks are now the whole wall. Now, here's the detail most people do not know about West Ham's finances, and it's a significant one. West Ham do not own the London Stadium. They pay rent to the Greater London Authority, around £4.5 million a year, a peppercorn rent for one of the largest stadiums in England. On the face of it, it's a fantastic deal. But here's the problem. Because West Ham do not own that stadium, they can't expand it, and they can't develop the hospitality in the way that they want. And they can't benefit from the naming rights where their rivals do. And here's the detail that makes fans genuinely furious. The taxpayer covers the maintenance and the upgrade costs of the London Stadium. A seven-figure bill every year that West Ham don't have to pay. Yet, despite all of that, despite the low rent, the taxpayer-funded upkeep, the 60,000 capacity, West Ham are still posting £104 million losses. Earlier this season, before a home game against Brentford, fans held up banners outside the London Stadium reading "Sold Our Soul." Thousands of empty seats inside, and a sit-in protest after the Newcastle win. The supporters were telling anyone who would listen that something is deeply wrong. Brady led the negotiations for the stadium move. It was her deal, her legacy. She's now gone. And now, the moment that every West Ham fan's been dreading. Jarrod Bowen. West Ham bought him from Hull City in January 2020 for £20 million. David Moyes identified him, developed him, and turned him into an England international. Bowen repaid them with 64 Premier League goals, became the club captain, and signed a long-term deal. He said he wanted to retire at West Ham. He earns £150,000 a week, the highest paid player at the club, since Lucas Paqueta was sold to Flamingo in January for £35 million because West Ham desperately needed the cash. Chelsea want Bowen. Liverpool want him. Newcastle wants him. West Ham's official position, he's not for sale. But here's what their own accountants say. West Ham have publicly stated that they will need to sell players to generate income this summer, regardless of whether they stay up or whether they go down. So Bowen is not for sale, unless West Ham need to sell him, which their own accounts confirm they will. If they stay up, reports suggest an asking price of around £50 million. If they go down, whatever the highest bidder will offer. Because relegated clubs do not negotiate from strength. They take what they get. West Ham bought Bowen for £20 million. They could sell him for £50 million if they're lucky. Meanwhile, Arsenal paid £105 million for Declan Rice, a player who West Ham developed from the age of 14. The pattern at this club is painfully clear. Develop the talent, sell the talent cheap, and then spend the money badly. Now, let's talk about what actually happens if West Ham go down. Their Premier League revenue last season was £228 million. In the Championship, that falls somewhere between £80 million and £100 million. A drop of over £130 million in a single year. They are already posting £104 million losses at £228 million of revenue. At £90 million revenue, the numbers don't just get worse, they become existential. Their own accounts describe relegation as a severe but plausible scenario, requiring, and quoting again, additional funding from shareholders. In other words, David Sullivan and Daniel Kretinsky would need to put their hands in their pockets. Sullivan is 76 years old. He's reportedly been house hunting in Cheshire, 200 miles away from East London. Multiple reports suggest he is looking for an exit and that he wants to sell. Kretinsky owns just over 27% of the club and would be its natural successor. But right now, at this exact moment, the boardroom has just lost its deputy chairman, its executive director, and soon its chief finance officer. The leadership is walking out the door while the club fights for its Premier League life. West Ham's wage bill is £176 million. Their revenue in the Championship would be around £90 million. You don't need a finance degree to understand what the arithmetic looks like. There will be a fire sale. Every significant player will be sold at panic prices to clubs who know exactly how desperate they are, into a Championship where the financial model makes recovery deeply uncertain. This is what a Sunderland-style collapse looks like in its early stages, and West Ham are showing every single warning sign. So, are West Ham going down? At the point of recording this, they're 2 points above the relegation zone. 4 games left, playing Brentford away but currently losing 1-0. Next, they have Arsenal at home, then Newcastle away, and then Leeds on the final day. Alan Shearer says that West Ham or Tottenham are the 2 most likely clubs to join Wolves and Burnley in the Championship. Their own accounts say relegation is severe but plausible. Their vice-chairman just left with immediate effect just weeks before the end of the season. And underneath all of it, a £104 million loss, a stadium they don't own, a captain every big club wants, and an owner who may well be heading for the exit himself. West Ham fans have a song, Forever Blowing Bubbles. Right now, those bubbles aren't floating, they're bursting. If this video gave you a perspective on what is really happening at West Ham, give it a like. It genuinely helps more people find the channel. Subscribe to Sports Cash Files. Every week we cover the money behind the sport. And drop it in the comments. Do you think West Ham will survive? Or is this the beginning of a Sunderland-style collapse? See you in the next episode.